Alice Cooper has been known to follow musical trends. The first time he did this was in 1980 with the album Flush to Fashion, where he experimented with new wave music. But I want to ask the question, could he pull it off? That's what I want to talk about today. In this video, I'm going to give you some background on the album. I'll do a track-by-track review, and I'll tell you what went wrong and what went right with Flush to Fashion. This is Alice Cooper's 12th studio album. It was released on April 28, 1980 through Warner Brothers Records. This is one of the first times he made such a drastic change in the sound. He decided to take a shot at new wave and punk, which are two genres that were popular in the beginning of the 1980s. The album was produced by Roy Thomas Baker, who was known for his work with Queen and the Cars. As a result, the album had a very glossy and synthesizer-driven sound, which was a departure from Cooper's earlier hard rock style. Not only that, he also changed his appearance. He abandoned his iconic 1970s gothic horror look. He wore simpler clothes, less makeup, and he had a clean-cut appearance. He also collaborated with musicians like Davy Johnstone, who was Elton John's longtime guitarist, and Fred Mandel, who would interestingly become his keyboardist later on. The addition of these musicians helped shape this new sound. As for the lyrical themes, the album has 10 tracks. The songs explore themes of identity loss, alienation, and the absurdity of modern life. Many of the songs told stories to express the particular theme. The album has a few notable tracks, like the lead single Clones, We're All, which reached number 40 on the Billboard Top 40, as well as Pain, Grim Facts, and a cover of Talk Talk by the Music Machine. Not only that, the album is very short with a runtime of just under 29 minutes, making it the shortest in Alice Cooper's discography. Flush to Fashion was the first of Alice Cooper's so-called blackout albums. This was a short period in the early 80s where he was experiencing struggles with substance abuse and alcoholism and just lots of personal problems. At the time, the album was met with mixed reactions. At first, the change in style alienated some longtime fans, but over time, has become a cult favorite due to its bold experimentation. He went on tour for the album in 1980, but after the early 1980s, songs from this era were rarely performed live, with only occasional revivals to tracks like Clones, We're All, and Pain in later years. The album was not a commercial blockbuster, but it shows he was never one to play it safe and was willing to change his style and try new things. Let me go through the songs and I'll give you my thoughts on them. The album opens with Talk Talk. It's a cover song. The original was written by Sean Bonnywell and first released by American garage rock band The Music Machine in 1966. It became their only top 20 hit on the Billboard Hot 100. Alice Cooper released it as a single, although it didn't chart. In my opinion, the song is just okay. The only good thing about it is it still sounds like the Alice Cooper of the 70s, as the song he's just easing into the new wave style. After this is Clones, in parentheses, We're All. We're all clones, all are one and one. Now, it's a song where he goes full new wave. It sounds something like the band Devo, but with a lot of synth. I actually like the song a lot. It's very catchy. It's one I go back to when I listen to Alice Cooper playlists. It's a very 80s sounding song, but I think he did it very well. But I wouldn't say that's my favorite song. I think the next song, Pain, is a better song. I feel it still has that classic Alice Cooper essence and sound. Probably wouldn't have sounded out of place if it were on one of his albums from the 70s. Had more of his classic sound. Not only that, the song's very catchy and theatrical sounding. Even reminds me of the band Queen at times. I also felt the song lyrics were very clever, but unfortunately, after Clones and Pain, I don't really like the other songs that much. I don't hate them. I like them a little bit, but let me talk about them. Next song is Leather Boots. This is kind of a weird song. At first it sounds like a cowboy song, but it sounds like a typical new wave song with some country influences. On a positive note, it's under 2 minutes long. After this is Aspirin Damage, and this one is actually not that bad. I'd say my third favorite after Clones and Pain, because it has some clever lyrics about taking too much aspirin, and it's a really catchy song. It gets stuck in your head. The lyrics really make the song, it's very quirky and sarcastic, and it's just something that he was known for. After this is Nuclear Infected. This one is kind of a weird song. It still has this theatrical quality and also some hints of his hard rock style. The lyrics are fun. It's about someone infected by radiation. I read the lyrics. I thought about the movie Toxic Avenger, even though that came out, I think it was like about 4 years after this one. Next song is Grim Facts. It's another one that still has some of that hard rock song. The guitars are prominent, but it's a weird song. The lyrics are kind of out there, and they probably haven't aged well. I won't say what they are, but I found a clip of Alice talking about this song back in the 80s. So I'm going to play that clip.
Where is music going? Where is your music going? Are you cleaning up lyrics?
It keeps going in circles. No, I don't necessarily ever think about cleaning up lyrics. The new album there's a thing called Grim Facts Every Parent Must Know, you know, that has a lyric that she likes to brush across my Levi's, she likes to watch me grow, you know. That's my favorite lyric in the whole thing, because it's just a real good lyric. You know, it's a great way of putting it. And on stage it gets a great reaction, because they've all been there at that point. The kids are a lot smarter than the parents think.
On a positive note, the song has some of that old-time rock and roll sound, so it's not too bad. After this is Model Citizen. This one has some lyrics that are kind of out there. Again, another song is kind of strange, one of those more new wave sounding songs. At the same time, lyrics are very clever, and they still sound like they belong on an Alice album. Then the song Dance Yourself to Death. Sounds like a rock and roll type of song. Lyrics are about a teenager who has a mom and dad who go out and party and leave him alone in the house, and he does the same thing at home. This could be even an unofficial sequel to Dead Babies, if you think about it. The song's not too bad. It's very 80s, more of a rock and roll song. The last track is called Headlines. This one also has that kind of rock and roll sound at first, but when you hear the chorus, it's more new wave. I like some of the guitar work on the song in particular. The lyrics are clever. It's about people doing outrageous things to get in the news. It can even be argued that the song is relevant today with all people doing crazy things on social media just to get likes and clicks. So maybe Alice was being prophetic on this track. Now for part 3 of the video, I want to talk about some of the problems with this album. But I also want to talk about what he got right. But I'm going to start with the problems. My first criticism is probably not much of a big deal, but it's the short runtime. The length is just under 29 minutes. Now in today's day and age, probably not much of an issue. But back in 1980, people were buying their music in physical format. So if you went to a record store and you bought an album for the same price as most of the other albums that you were buying at that time, you would expect the same amount of music in that album, which is about 64% of the length of a typical album. Not only that, song quality is inconsistent. People seem to be divided on this. Some call it a 50-50 album where half the songs are good and the rest are filler. I kind of agree with this. And another negative is the departure from the classic sound. The new wave and synth-driven production alienated a lot of longtime fans who preferred Cooper's hard rock style. The guitars and drums are often buried under the synthesizers and vocal effects, and this turned away a lot of fans who were expecting his signature sound. I mean, this could go both ways. Imagine if you're a fan of The Cure, but one day they put out a heavy metal album. I'm sure some fans might like it, but it would also alienate a big part of the fan base. There's also a lack of a creative focus on this album. If you remember before, I said this was one of his blackout albums. According to Alice Cooper, he doesn't remember making the album. So the fact that he wasn't really there when he made the album showed he lacked the creativity of his earlier works. There's also a mixed reception to his new persona. People were expecting the Alice who had the guillotines, the big stage show, and they got a guy wearing simple clothes, less makeup, or different makeup actually, and a more restrained image. So therefore it didn't resonate with all of his fans, and many missed that theatrical, horror-inspired presentation. There was also a sense of desperation. He was just chasing trends. Some critics felt the album was just him following musical trends instead of setting them like he did in the early 70s. People felt it lacked innovation. It was just an attempt to stay relevant. Not only that, the supporting tour was seen as a letdown compared to previous ones. There was limited production. He played smaller venues. Like I said before, people missed that big theatrical stage show. Now, despite the criticisms, there are some positive aspects about the album, so let me talk about them. I think the first one is that he took a chance on changes of style, and the results were not that bad. The music is pretty good. The production is very clean, it's polished, the music is upbeat, you can still hear guitars, and the producer really knew how to make this type of music. Roy Thomas Baker has already a successful track record with other bands such as The Cars and Queen. In addition, there were some songs that were pretty good and have held up well. So for example, Clones, Pain, Talk Talk is pretty good. Clones was a minor hit and has been covered by other artists. Pain is a good deep cut, has very clever lyrics, and people like the power ballad format he used. But not only that, the album still has that Alice Cooper sarcasm, his wit, his satire. And that's something I noticed when I gave this album another listen to prepare for this. It was really the first time I paid attention to the lyrics, and I thought the lyrics were very clever. The album also has many fans who say it's one of his most fun and energetic albums. Some people prefer the short runtime as one of those albums that's easy to revisit when you don't have much time to invest in a listening session. I can agree with this because I don't mind shorter albums. In addition, it's the first time he proved he could be a chameleon. He would do it again throughout his career with better results. For example, he released a glam metal album in 1989 called Trash, which was one of his biggest albums and kind of a comeback for him, and also introduced him to a new generation of fans, myself included. That's where I discovered him. Finally, the album stands the test of time and has gone on to become a cult classic. It has even been cited by many popular bands as being an inspiration, including Smashing Pumpkins. So in conclusion, it's not one of those albums I revisit often. I've listened to it a few times, and I usually listen to it when I'm ready to do a ranking video. I think I even ranked it dead last in one of my ranking videos, I think a few years ago. But after listening again and paying more attention and reading the lyrics, I liked it more than I did in the past. It has its own charm, and there are a few songs I can say I like, so for me it's not that bad. If you want to see what Alice was doing 2 years before this album, check out my review of From the Inside. I will stick it right there. In the meantime, please give the video a like. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you have not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.